Wolverhampton Wanderers have been having an awful time this season, sitting rock bottom as we go into the winter break / World Cup. And of course, Bruno Lage has now been sacked as the manager. Lopetegui's been hired as the manager, but before he got in that job, I jumped in quickly to do a 3-year playthrough of Wolves and seeing, can we take Wolverhampton Wanderers back to European football? Let's dive in at season number 1. So season number 1 starts with Wolverhampton Wanderers, of course. They are down as being 10th to finish in the Premier League. Their media predictions come at 10th in the league. Of course, a lot of big players are on the verge of leaving this club. The biggest one being, of course, Ruben Neves, who's on the verge of leaving the club. At the end of this season, his contract does run out. So I'll put a mission. Can we keep hold over Ruben Neves going into the first transfer window and going forward with Wolverhampton Wanderers? And a first glimpse of the squad. There's a squad here. Should be playing European football. You like the looks of Guedes, Mateus Nunez, even like Ruben Neves, Adama Traore, Raul Jimenez. These are players that should be playing in Europe. And right now, Wolves just ain't good enough. So my job with this team is basically to try and rebuild them within 3 years and get them back into European contention and challenging towards winning some European silverware. Even something domestically would be lovely, but for right now, pushing for a top half finish and aiming for European spots. But we'll see how it goes. We go to the end of season number 1 firstly and see how we've got on with Wolverhampton Wanderers. So season number 1 done with Wolves, and of course, how do they get on in the Premier League? We took Wolves into Champions League football in just 1 season. An absolute overachievement. Of course, they particularly finished 4th this season. I think we underestimated how good this team could be. I always said this team is good enough for European football. Within season number 1, we qualified for the Champions League, finishing 4th in the Premier League. I mean, it's a big shock thing to see in the Premier League table. The likes of Brighton going 20th and getting relegated. The likes of Spurs and Chelsea getting 8th and 9th in the Premier League. Brentford finishing 7th as well as an odd one. Of course, Newcastle have that money. They have spent it well within this save already, getting 5th this season. But Wolves finishing 4th is absolutely massive. In 38 games, they got 20 wins, 8 draws, 10 defeats. Not a bad first season for me as a new Wolves manager. I will have to admit though, they conceded a few too many goals for my liking. In that top 6 there, you can see they conceded the most goals on 50 goals conceded this season. But the fact they got 68 points in season number 1, we qualified for Europe. And it isn't like we've gone out there and spent a lot of money either. We had no budget to start the season, only wage we could use, and we took 2 big loanees in. Firstly, by signing Nikola Maximovic, came in on loan for the season from Lokomotiv Moscow, a very capable defender of European football at this point of his career, still at age of 31. But he still does everything in defence, and he had an absolutely stunning season at Wolves. And joining him, again, an older statement of the game now, Danilo D'Ambrosio, but again, I wanted some cover for both left back and right back this season. And this guy offered that. At the age of 34, he can still get up and down those lines. He can cross the ball. Very good passing range about him. And the fact that he can cover both sides of the pitch in that left back and right back position this season for us. He's done an absolute monster job and seen us get 4th in the Premier League. Of course, in terms of other competitions, it didn't really go very far for us. In terms of the FA Cup, we got knocked out in the 3rd round by Chelsea. But the Carabao Cup, we got all the way to the semi-finals for losing out to Fulham and not managing to win the Carabao Cup. But getting to a semi-final and finishing 4th in the Premier League is not a bad turnaround for season number 1. So before I quickly dive in and show you the tactic we actually used with Wolves this season, this is what we've been playing with. Of course, some players have been switched around since then. The likes of Jimenez has been off injured for a little while as well. You can see Adama Traore is currently injured at the end of this season. This is how season number 1 finished. Playing a 4-3-3, playing that sweep keeper on support with Sarr in goal, Semedo at right back, Johnny at left back, Kilman and Maximovic playing that centre back pairing. Traore playing that DM role with Neves as a box-to-box and Mateus Nunez in that DLP role, while Guedes at inside forward. Adama Traore using his pace as a winger on that right hand side, getting balls into the box. And of course, we've had a mixture of the pairing of Sasso up front so far this season, but mainly it's been Raul Jimenez up front for Wolverhampton. So if we dive into the squad review now, I wanted to mention Raul Jimenez. You can see here, 23 goals this season from his 36 appearances. But he's not the only one who's been amongst the goals and the assists. Adama Traore getting a monster 10 assists and 13 goals in that right wing position for us. Overall, happiness unhappy. I can't understand why exactly. He wants a new deal. Well, there we go. We know why then. But again, the likes of Sasa here. He got 12 goals this season. Ruben Neves, 16 assists and 10 goals for him. Playing that box-to-box role. Making his late runs into the box. The likes of Guedes getting 9 goals. And the goals have been very much around the whole pitch this season. A lot of goals for a lot of players this season. He's been a very good first season here at Wolverhampton. But with that being said though, even though Wolves qualified for the Champions League, on January 1st we still hadn't got a new contract confirmed with Ruben Neves. We didn't have the money available to offer him that new deal, and sadly he'll be joining Real Madrid on a free transfer after this season. So we lose out on our captain and our key player in midfield. The rebuild continues by losing our best player and moving forward into season number 2. So we come back at the end of season number 2, and before we push on and show you what happened in the league, how I've done within the cups, I want to go through the transfers quickly because a lot of transfers happened in between the start of that new season and the end of this season. Of course, last season we loaned in D'Ambrosio and Maximovic, and since then we started spending the money. We had that Champions League money, of course, with Wolverhampton Wanderers. We start off with Morten Frederick coming in from Genoa for just £10 million. I needed a replacement midfield. I was thinking a long-term option at age 23. Could Morten Frederick come in as a bit of a cheaper option for Ruben Neves and do that same sort of role in that box-to-box role this season? I mean, he did alright. We'll dive a bit more into how he's played so far this season, how it got on for him. We didn't do a bad effort, really, for the youngster in midfield. And coming on the wide positions, I want a bit more depth out wide, but we didn't actually use him this season. Rooney Barger came in on a transfer to Wolverhampton Wanderers. We did loan him out straight away, though, to Clermont to get him some first-team action and see how much he'd build up. I mean, you can see him on screen now. Very good attributes of the one season being out loan, getting first-team football. Possibly a start on season number 3. Guess we'll find out soon. Nicolo Ravella came on loan from Juventus again. Someone else who can play that same role. To Ruben Neves in that midfield. With a good passing range of 14, the vision of 13. Quite young as well at 22 for the Italians. We thought, again, a good option to bring in on loan for the season. And my God, he had a cracking season. In his first season in the Premier League, in 27 appearances, getting 4 assists, 1 player of the match, a 6.89. Probably a bit more of a letdown to what he should have really gotten, because honestly, he was so much better than that. He was very pivotal in most of the games this season, a key player for Wolves on loan. But do we keep him going to season number 3? So this was a bit more of an interesting one. With Nottingham Forest getting relegated last season and us being in the Champions League, we needed some homegrown players, some players who have been at the club at youth level. So Morgan Gibbs-White returned back to Wolverhampton Wanderers. He came in for a fee of just £33.5 million. Of course, he was sold by Wolves only last window. And he went out for £27 million. So we paid a bit more money to get him back at Wolves. But the fact he'd been at the club all of his youth career and he could be in the Champions League squad was an ideal situation for us. But of course, he got 17 appearances this season. Didn't really feature too much this season, but again, from the bench, an important player for us this year. And again, the main reason being Champions League youth players. We needed players who've been at the club for that long period of time at youth level. And my God, Morgan Gibbs-White ticks that box. And another player who ticks that box, you can see here, he started off at Wolverhampton a long time ago now, was Wayne Hennessy. He has since retired at the end of this season, but he came in on a free transfer. But he came in 350k. Again, someone who'd been at the club at a long time at youth level. We thought straight away, he's got that homegrown about him. He's been here a long time now. Of course, the Welsh international made 104 caps for Wales within this game. I mean, he's been a statesman in the Welsh team for such a long time. He was like, as a backup keeper, Wayne's the man. And joining those transfers and loans in, we took Ilias Mariba on loan from Leipzig for the season. Of course, Mariba is an absolutely incredible player. He ended up being the guy who did replace Ruben Neves for the majority of the season. Of course, he's very much a very good go-to box-to-box player. He has that range about him to make those runs late into the box and score a lot of goals. Then with the last one being, Ayoub Aldin came in on loan again. I thought we needed some more depth in midfield, and this guy looked very well-rounded. Decent work rate, good vision, good passing, but at 15 as well. He can play a defensive side of the game, playing against DM, and he can play further up the field in midfield. Being a left-footed midfielder as well, I thought it's a good young player we can get in, maybe mould to our own sort of player, and maybe sign him at the end of his loan deal. But again, didn't feature a lot. He had 15 starts within the Premier League this season, but Ayoub Aldin could be someone for the future or someone to watch within your saves. Of course, there's a few others we signed though before the start of that season, which we can go into quickly. First off, Philippe Max came in from PSV. I wanted a better left-back option. I thought Philippe Max offers everything I'm looking for. The acceleration of 15, that pace of 15, someone who can dribble, cross the ball, great passing and vision, someone who can get balls in the box and get a lot of assists this season. After only making 23 appearances, including some appearances this season, 4 goals and 4 assists for the German international, it was not a bad return really. But again now, on 105k, is he someone we go around for the future? We'll probably get 2 seasons out of this guy before we end up moving him on at the age of 30. Next up, we went to Portugal, but we didn't get someone Portuguese to match with what the club asked for. We got a Spaniard in Pedro Porro, the former Man City guy. Comes in for that right back position. Again, I wanted new full-backs at both sides of the pitch for Wolves this season, and we did let Semedo go to PSG for 20 million. So we used some of that money, and we got Pedro Porro, a younger option, who again, he's very fast. He can get up and down that right-hand side. Great crossing ability at 17, dribbling at 15. And to be fair, he had a good first season. He's 33 appearances, getting 2 goals and 5 assists from full-back. Exactly what you wanted from the guy. And then to round things up, we signed some Portuguese. Eventually, we did get there in the end. Antonio Silva came in for centre-back. The defence had a complete revamp going through this season. But on 140k for the 20-year-old centre-back, he looks well worth the money. 6'2", he has a 15 jump and reach, heading of 15, passing of 15, tackling of 15, marking of 14. And you can see his mental attributes there. Composure of 17, concentration, decision making, all really high numbers for such a young centre-back who is well worth the money. But of course, at this point, we should probably get into what happened within the season. We came fourth yet again, but we failed to qualify for the Champions League. Yes, you heard that correctly. Getting fourth in the league, but we didn't get the Champions League spot, all because of what happened within the Champions League itself. So our run out south in the Champions League didn't really go to plan. We finished rock bottom of our group, but I mean, it's a pretty hard draw getting Dortmund, AC Milan and Porto. But we could still qualify for the Champions League. At this point of the save, we hadn't played the Man City Man United final, but a fourth place finish should surely be enough to see Wolves get Champions League football for a second season in a row. After finishing fourth in the Premier League and Raul Jimenez again amongst the goals, in terms of the rest of domestic cups, it didn't really go to plan this time round at all. We got knocked out in the third round against Norwich in the Carabao Cup, whilst in the FA Cup we reached the fifth round before being knocked out by Brentford. But in terms of the Premier League though, you can see the golden boot race there. Jimenez is well off the pace between Haaland. Haaland on 39 goals in 38 games this season. He's an absolute robot. Do not go near this guy. But of course, Salah coming second. Jimenez coming in third place. Not a bad return at goal for Raul Jimenez once again. He's been struggling in real life, but within this game, he scores the goals. And as we dive into the squad review now, you can kind of see how our season's been playing out really for us. Jimenez, 20 goals, 2 assists within the league. 11 goals for Guedes coming from that wide position with 7 assists for him. Sasa again from the bench, not a bad season with 10 goals for him. The likes of Pedro Neto, Adama Traore, Fabio Silva returning from his loan deal. Didn't get many minutes, but he did get 5 goals in the appearance he did make. And Philip Max is right up there with his 5 assists and 4 goals. But as season number 2 comes to an end now with Wolves getting Champions League football yet again for 2 seasons in a row, we move into the final season now of this rebuild and seeing, can we get Wolves one step further and either a bit of a run in the Champions League or even pushing for the top 3 in the Premier League. So, season number 3, I'm going to kick things off with the transfers. What happened towards the start of that season and the end of the season? We dive in. We went mental with the Portuguese signings finally. But firstly, we brought in Clement Lenglet. He came in from Barcelona for the season, but he's already been sold off to Napoli come the end of the save. Because we spent 37 million on Gonçalo Inácio coming in from Sporting, now to join Silva at the back. I had 2 young Portuguese centre-backs controlling that defence for the future. What a pairing at the back. I mean, you can look at those attributes on screen right now. What a player Ignacio is. And joining Silva at the back, a young Portuguese pairing that will lead the national team all the way to success in the future. He came in for a bit of a fee at 37 million, but that just gives some spoilers to who else we signed in this save. As next up, we signed Virginia. I thought we need another striking option. Jimenez isn't getting any younger now at this point of the game, and we thought we need that next option. Of course, someone Portuguese to bring in and build up to be the next Portuguese number 9. Virginia coming in from Braga, had a pretty good season in his first season. He didn't play a lot of minutes, but we thought it's his first season. We're going to build him into the team behind Jimenez and get him playing a couple of minutes. But within season number 1, he made 25 appearances, getting 8 goals and 2 assists. Not a bad return after his 35 million move from Braga. Then joining from Portugal also, Pedro Gonzalez came in, playing the midfield role now. We have converted him to a Mezzala in the 4-3-3, which we'll go to in a moment. But a very good first season for Pedro. As you can see now on screen, he's 32 appearances after his 45 million switch from Sporting. He got 7 goals and 5 assists from midfield with 4 player of the match appearances and not a bad average rating of a 7.05. But following those transfers, you can see what we did afterwards and a very interesting turn of events. Some of these are not what you'd have thought. We start off with Nardoni. We bought him on loan for the season from Manchester United. A bit more depth in midfield, of course. Last season, we had a lot of players in midfield on loan. Trying some different players out. 3.4 million in the first season. But again, we need some depth back up. And we thought this guy could come in and be useful. We paid 1.5 million loan fee for him. He only makes 7 appearances. So maybe a bit of a waste of money. But we thought, as a utility player, he could do the job. So this next one might be a bit of a weird one. People probably thinking, why? Why Harry? Why did you sign this guy? Well, again, here's someone like Hennessy who started his career at Wolverhampton Wanderers back in 2014. And we thought, again, someone who is here at a youth level, who has that homegrownness about him, will be the perfect backup keeper for Sarri in net. Of course, Hennessy retired last season, so we brought Harry in to be our backup number 2 this season. And to be fair, he was alright, but he didn't play a single minute. He was very much that backup keeper. Then next up, some more depth for midfield, as Mohamed El Neni left Arsenal on a free transfer and Wolves snapped him up straight away for 35 grand a week. For a rotational midfielder, he has it all. A work rate of 16, he still has tackling of 15, technique of 14, passing and vision both at 13 and 12. A very well-rounded midfielder. And then last on the list, on loan from Paris Saint-Germain, Andreas Sveldrup came in. Of course, in real life, he's a player everyone is watching right now at Nordjylland in the Norwegian League. But this guy's absolutely incredible within FM this year. He ended up coming in and starting a lot of games this season with 28 appearances, with 3 goals and 7 assists. Someone I'd like to keep around, but again, PSG now want quite a lot of money. And now that we've gone through all the transfers and you've seen what we've been doing, this is how we're lining up now with the 4-3-3. A few tweaks to it, adding Mazzala in there, moving the box to box to the other side. We've put the DM into a half-back role now, so a few changes to the formation, but we're still sticking with the base of that 4-3-3, using that width with Damatura as that wide winger on attack, up that line, getting those low balls into the pressing forward, which has been Vitinha and Jimenez throughout this season. But we should probably dive in and have a look about how we did within the league and the cups. So we start things off first with the Premier League, and we came 4th again. How have we got 4th 3 seasons in a row? We haven't really moved any further from getting 4th. I mean, we get Champions League football again and again and again, which is great. 3 years in a row of Champions League football for Wolverhampton Wanderers, which I'm sure the Wolves fans would be crying for right now in real life. But again, we were so close to Chelsea, both finishing on 70 points. But that goal difference of Chelsea's was just too much for us. With both teams playing 38 games, winning 21, drawing 7, and both losing 10 games, the goal difference of Chelsea's was just too much for us. With Jimenez being the main man in front of goal this season, coming 5th in the Golden Boot charts this time round, at age 34, bagging 21 goals, it's not a bad return for the 34-year-old, considering 10 years younger is Erling Haaland getting 28. But in terms of the other competition, you can see it now, the Champions League, we made out the group this time, but we did lose out to PSG. Getting PSG in the round of 16, we couldn't have got a worse tie. And again, failure in both the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. You can see on the screen now, we got knocked out by rivals Aston Villa in the 5th round, and the Carabao Cup losing out to Manchester City in the quarter-finals. But with all that being said, after 3 years, are Wolverhampton Wanderers now a better team than they are in real life? I mean, the short answer is yes. They got Champions League football 3 years in a row. I think this rebuild of Wolves definitely helped. There was a lot of dead wood within this Wolves team that need replacing. The defence is an absolute mess right now. You've seen the players we've brought in. Of course, I don't see the likes of Nasio going to Wolverhampton Wanderers right now in real life. But if you can get the best out of Jimenez, Damatura on that right-hand side, I know in real life he's a bit more hit and miss than compared to the game, but you've seen it in the game. We can make it work. Now, I wonder, can Wolverhampton Wanderers do it in real life? Let me know in the comment section. Do Wolverhampton Wanderers get relegated this season? Yes or no? Let me know down below. And of course, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you're giving the video a thumbs up. And of course, subscribing to the channel if you are new around here. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.